Hi guys, sorry it took so long between the last video and this one. I've just been super busy. But today I want to talk about something that I think a lot of trans people go through as they're deciding whether or not they should transition, and that's, whether or not I'm actually a transsexual. Whenever people ask these sorts of questions on forums or on Reddit or wherever it is, you always hear the same thing. Only you can know. Nobody can tell you. And that's definitely true to a certain extent. But if you're asking the question, I think there's a very high probability that you are. So for me, I've asked this question of myself since I first started to feel anything incongruent about my gender, which for me was a pretty long time. But I made excuses. So these are the five biggest excuses that I think I and other transsexual people tell themselves to try and convince themselves that maybe they're not actually transsexuals, maybe they don't actually have to deal with this, um, maybe they can lead normal lives, and this can be a really dangerous game to play with yourself if you actually are a transsexual and you don't try and really deal with it, and instead you use denial and these sorts of deceptive things, inside your own head to convince yourself that you're not. It can really end up pretty badly for you. So the first was, I can't be a transsexual because I haven't felt this way my entire life. If you read the narratives of transsexuals, you'll see a huge variation in the ages that they first felt it. It goes from their earliest memories to the beginning of puberty to the end of puberty. And there isn't one true transsexual narrative in this respect. It really could be any of those things. So if you haven't always felt like a transsexual, you haven't always felt gender dysphoria from your youngest memories, doesn't mean that you're not. You very well still could be. Second one, I can't be a transsexual because I'm turned on by the thought of being a woman. So this is the idea of autogynephilia, which, in my opinion, is a really crap theory. Really doesn't make any sense. But for a long time, I identified with it. I thought that's what I was. I thought I had a fetish, some weird sexual deviance. But the reality is, transsexual women just have women's sexualities in a male body, fueled by testosterone. Um, and for me, I think I finally eventually realized that the fantasies that I had, that the things that I was thinking were normal things for a woman to be thinking. And, in the body of a guy, and from that perspective, it could be, totally misconstrued as autogynephilia, you know? But it's really a silly theory, and it's not something that you should ever, you know, um, use as a reason to think that you're not a transsexual. Most transsexual women identify with feelings that could be described as autogynephilia. The third one, I can't be a transsexual because I like women. So this is a really common error that I think people make, and I even myself did for a long time. I've always been attracted to women. Um, so I thought, oh, well, maybe that means I'm actually a regular guy. But no, gender and sexuality are different things. And there's every variation of transsexual women and transsexual men. And there are transsexual women who like men and transsexual women who like women. And there are transsexual men who like men and transsexual men who like women. So it's, that really doesn't make any sense. The two things are completely different. The fourth one, I can't be a transsexual because I don't have feminine tastes or mannerisms. So I always thought that I wasn't I wasn't a particularly feminine guy. I don't think people thought that I was. I never really felt that I was particularly feminine. I always wanted to be a girl, but I wasn't, I didn't have really feminine traits or mannerisms in terms of the way that I presented myself. And I still don't, I still don't really. I'm more of a tomboy, I guess. And for me, in the past couple of years, as more people have started to do YouTube videos, that was sort of a revelation for me. I realized that, there are transsexual women out there who aren't hyper feminine. They're, they are tomboys. They, uh, they still like some male things. They still have some male mannerisms, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're not transsexuals. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't have transitioned. They definitely should have. The last one. I can't be a transsexual because I'm not sure if transition is what I want. Um, there's no way to know if transition is exactly what's best for you until you start doing it, I don't think. But you're really doing yourself a disservice if you think you might be a transsexual and you don't at least try it. And by trying it, I mean just taking little baby steps. Try cross-dressing a little bit, talk to a therapist, participate online in places that there are, other transsexuals are discussing trans-related topics. There are a lot of things that you can do to explore your feelings further. And if you think you might be a transsexual and you don't do those things, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, because the only way that you can really get to the bottom of it and figure out if transition is right for you is to do those things and try. And for me, it wasn't that I ever made a straight decision to transition. I made a decision to explore it, and the more I explored it, the more I wanted to transition. And that's really how it evolved for me, and I'm so happy I did. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Hopefully, I'll do another one sooner than a month from now. I hope that it was helpful to somebody. Bye.